excited because I love Westerns, but I want to know what inspired this intense, action-packed, psychological family drama, revenge. How did that happen?
In my mind. I mean, I'd done a previous Western, and it was is my first Western, Dead Man's Hand, and Lionsgate came back and said, "Well, let's do another one." They that one did well, and they thought, "Let's do another one." And so we started talking about ideas and themes, and there's certain themes that I always identified with Westerns, which is exactly what you said. It's the revenge, it's the family, it's the drama, and so. And then I also like the Eastwood Westerns, which is the bad guy being the good guy. You know, the Unforgiven, Paint the Town Black, those kind of things. So I kind of mixed all that together and just started coming up with this story and watched a lot of westerns, watched some Asian westerns, and so yeah, that's where it kind of all came from. And I wanted to make something that was a classic, felt like a more classic Western as opposed to a modern Western. I wanted it to have that spaghetti Western feel and those themes and those kind of stuff.
So for me, it was surprising because when I thought I knew it was going to happen, I was like, oh crap, it didn't happen the way I thought it was. So I felt there were a lot of like little twists and turns in there that made you have to think about a lot of stuff. So it had me thinking all the time, which a lot of times, you enjoy the action, but this made you think a lot. So I really, really, enjoyed that aspect to it. Your casting choices, of course, like incredibly amazing. When you were crafting the story, were you thinking about these choices while you were crafting, or did they come after the journey of crafting the story?
So Dorff was early because Stephen Dorff and I have done quite a few films together, and so we had talked about him being in the film, and then he came to me and said, "I want to play a lead." I don't want, he had been in supporting roles before with in my other films, and he came in and said, "I want to play the lead." I said, "Well, you want to play the bad guy?" He's like, "No, I want to play the good guy for once." And so, as far as his role goes, Thomas, that was always going to be Stephen. When I started writing and just could hear his voice and that kind of stuff. Some of the other roles, like Lori Love's roles, Talia, I always heard her voice. Cooper came a little bit later, but those type of things. Cage and Heather Graham were right at the end. They came in right at the end, right before we started shooting. So we started tweaking their roles after they came on board. But I always like to go into writing a script knowing who's in it, but you don't always get that luxury. So you write it. And then, fortunately, being the writer director, I get to write it and then sit with the cast and flush it all out and then rewrite it and then lock it before we start shooting. And that's what we shoot.
But I also like the fact that how you pasted, you did have that old Western feeling, but you pasted in a very modern way. What were you thinking about when you started to do that, when you started shooting? You're thinking, did that happen organically, or was that something you sort of like planned out your pacing?
I planned out the pacing for sure. There's a longer cut of the film. There's another 20 minutes of that film. We have some flashbacks, we have some other stuff that develops the backstory a little better, but it just wasn't. I didn't feel like it was up to par. I watched it. We cut it together. We watched it. We watched it myself with the producers, and a lot of producers thought it was great, and I didn't. And then the CEO at Lionsgate agreed with me. He watched it and he came back and said, "Not there yet. Let's get this pacing a little tighter. Let's get it a little faster." And so we just started working on this pacing, and I went through this film editing it, just I don't know, probably 30, 40 times. After it was already edited, just watched it again and again throughout the edit and just tweak, 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 tweak until it felt just like it was smooth. And that was the key.
Well, you're wearing a lot of hats. I mean, you're directing, writing, and editing. Of all those hats you're wearing, obviously you love them all. But which is the one that really like lights your fire the most?
Directing, absolutely. I love writing too. Writing is the foundation, and I really enjoy it. Sometimes it's a little too quiet. Writing is definitely one of those jobs where it's like, you're all alone. There's nobody here, you know. And I would love a writing partner. That would be fun. You know, some I write with my wife sometimes, and that's a lot of fun. But it's definitely a very quiet job, whereas directing is the exact opposite. It's very
Right.
loud, very fast, very. And so I enjoy directing. I enjoy being on set and what comes with it.
Without giving spoiler alert, there was so much of it that was had me so tense. There were certain scenes coming down to the end when the boys are trying to survive that scene. I was so tense in that because I didn't know what would happen. What were some of the scenes that you felt as a director for you were the most challenging ones without giving too much of the story away?
Um, be, I think the most challenging scenes to shoot were probably the stuff on the stagecoach.
Mm.
That was it had rained a lot, and so we had a lot of mud, and so a stagecoach on a process trailer going down muddy dirt roads became a very logistical challenge. It was tough, but it worked out, and we were always so that those scenes took place over 5 days at the same time of day too. We would drive over and shoot it just so we had the same lighting. So that was the other challenge. That was probably the most challenge, and then we had some scheduling issues. We started driving out to the location, and the guy comes out and goes, "Wait a minute, I have a hunting event here today. You guys are going to get shot." You know, so it's like we're like, "Oh, all right. I guess we'll go back shoot something else." You know, so
Oh God. There were some emotional scenes, many emotional scenes that were really, I thought the actors were just so brilliant at it. When it came to that particular scene where he's telling her that didn't she not know about the baby? There's so much emotion stuff going on in there. How did you bring that? I mean, those actors are brilliant, so I'm sure you know how to work with them, but how do you get them to get to that place where I and the audience member, we felt like, oh my God, we were so in it. Best I got invested in the character. So
oh well, yeah, thank you. That scene in particular was shot over 2 days because again we wanted the lighting to match, and it was definitely I attribute a lot to the actors. I mean they're just pros, and we and it was very tough because we had Ava Tadros who's very young. She was 4 at the time, so we only had her for very few hours, and we didn't want to scare her. We didn't want to, so we had to shoot. Jeremy was very good about hiding. It was a rubber gun. It was totally fake, and we showed it to her and said, "Look, it's fake. You can flop it." And so she was comfortable with that. But then to get the emotion there, so we very good about keeping a very mellow set on those type of scenes and keeping everybody just focused on their jobs. We're not cracking a lot of jokes, and keep these actors in. But Jeremy is just a pro. He was able to do the wide shot with her, and then we had to pull her out, and then he had to do it again on his close up without her, and he still just killed it. And that's difficult, and so that says a lot about his abilities.
so if you can describe this film in 3 words, how would you describe it?
Um, it's betrayal, it's action, and it's redemption.
Oh, you said it all. I just think you just did an amazing job. I can't wait to see more of the Westerns that you're going to do again. I'm pretty sure there's another one coming around the corner, and I want to be right there. So thank you so much for sharing time with me. But is there social media that people can follow the journey of the film, or what do they need to know?
You can follow me at Brian_Skiba on Instagram. I post on that a lot, and hashtag Gunslingers movie, I think is what the hashtag is.
All right, well, people better get ready to sit tight on their seats and hold on because it's going to be a wild ride. So thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks.